welcome Matt and Kendall Hagee.
Hello and welcome to The Difference. Today we're sitting down with guests who have put their faith into action and have empowered others with their demonstration of God's grace.
That's right. Hebrews 13:21 says, "May he equip you with every good thing to carry out his will and strengthen you, accomplishing in everything that you do that is pleasing in his sight."
You know, the Bible's very clear that faith without works is dead. There are a lot of people who are believing for great things, and they're called to do great things, but it's when you put your faith to work that you begin to see God's plan unfold in your life. And that's going to bring us to our very first guest. You know, there's a lot of people who wish they could do more around their house, but sometimes they're a little bit concerned. I know that there's times where you're asking me to try something.
I'm like, let's try something new, do-it-yourself project. So today we have Vanessa Hunt, which is a wife, a mother, an author, speaker, and she inspires thousands of women through her blog, The Picket Fence, with devotions, DIY ideals, and family-friendly recipes. Welcome, Vanessa.
Thank you so much.
Vanessa, how are you?
I'm so happy to be here.
DIY.
That's a tongue twister. You're thinking, do it.
Well, the acronym's do it yourself. I typically just say it, I'm going to die. So, what is it that you can do to teach me to survive DIY projects?
So the first thing is to remember that there's no way to really get it wrong. As long as you're putting some effort into it, it's your interpretation of it. And so you can't get it wrong, especially with something as simple as this.
This smells
delicious. So we have
delicious.
set up this beautiful hot apple cider station for us, and it is the easiest recipe ever and captures all the flavors and smells and the best part of fall. So what we would do is we would take a saucepan like this, and we would put in apple juice, and then we would add some of these wonderful things. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to show you how easy it is to make these. So if one of you wants to
slice
it straight down, and we're going to make these beautiful slices of apple. And what we would do is we would put them on a roasting pan and pop them in the oven, and you would add a dash actually of apple pie spice.
Ooh,
and so it's as simple as that. So you would put it in the oven and take it out. You're going to put all your ingredients in. So we're going to have some orange, some apple cider, some more apple pie spice. So it adds just a different flavor to apple cider than maybe you're used to.
That's awesome.
And so we would put in, if you want to put in some cinnamon.
Okay.
And
just put it in here?
and we'd have apple juice in there. And
so
we
now
would have
any
some
kind of apple juice or
just
just any kind of apple juice that you wanted to use. And you would squeeze
Not all
some
apple
oranges.
juices are created
That's
equal.
right. And then when they come out, they look like this, and they're beautiful. And then you would pour it in these glasses, and you would have your apple slices there, and a stick of cinnamon, and it just smells
I can
amazing.
do this.
Yes,
now, how long does that take to make?
Not long at all. The hardest part is actually just roasting the apples in the oven. So that takes about 20 minutes, and you'd flip them over halfway through.
Can you do the whole, like, you know, make in advance, serve as they arrive kind of thing?
Absolutely, as long as you leave the apple slices out and put them in right at the end.
Right at the end.
And this is like super impressive, and everybody's gonna ooh and ah, and they won't even know how easy it is.
Yeah, but like what I've found, like when it comes to DIY stuff and hosting parties and events, is like the people who impress you are the ones that when you walk into their house, everything's ready and they're just poised.
I know.
It's the one who's like, I'll be with you in a minute, and they're running here and running there, and that's typically
Well, you know,
us, so.
I think it's that combination of preparing in advance and having friends over, but also being really real with them.
I was gonna say.
My friends love to come over, and actually, I have them sit on the island, and they watch me
visit.
make dinner
Yeah, it's kinda
while
like
I was visiting.
You know, the kitchen's the heart of the home.
You don't even have to have this ready. Have them be a part of it with you.
That's awesome.
And this is our next thing. So for your table, as we're heading into the season of thanks and just really gathering together at home. So these are some really simple projects. So this is actually a Lazy Susan.
With your kids.
And
you can find that
you
at
could
any
totally
store.
do this with your kids. And we just created a little like palette of thankfulness here.
That's
and
great.
so
Grateful.
we took these stencils, and Kendall, I'm gonna have you do this. So I'm gonna have you add the
oh, thank goodness.
I was gonna say, that said ankle. I was like,
I'm grateful for ankles.
So this is literally just a Sharpie and some stencils. And you're just gonna stencil on the letters. And one of the things I love is that you could actually use this as your Thanksgiving centerpiece.
I like that, especially
and put
for
it on the
kids.
center. Yes, have your kids do this. Get them involved. And one of the things you could do, because it's a Lazy Susan, is you could put...
Thankful.
You could be thankful,
There's
yes.
a T
There's
right
a
there.
T. There's a T. Should we
it.
have Matt do that
We have
one?
Matt.
No, I'm good at watching. I cut the apple.
So,
That's the apple.
one of the things you could do is put this on your Thanksgiving table. And we like to make sure that we're getting people talking and visiting and reflecting on their year. So you could put this down in the middle. It creates a beautiful centerpiece. And you can actually spin it around. And as you're going around the table, have people pick a word on here. We've got peaceful and joyful and happy and thankful, blessed, and maybe reflect on something that is
gets
from...
a good, purposeful driven conversation.
Exactly.
Sometimes people don't know what to start talking about. And then sometimes what they choose to talk about really doesn't take the conversation in a good direction. So this steers that conversation literally.
It does.
And it looks like something that, you know, so easy, even a me could do it.
That's right. That's right.
Your napkin.
Okay, so these are the cutest little napkin rings.
I recognize
Okay,
this.
so this, toilet paper tubes. And
I know where that came from.
Do you know that you can actually buy these at the craft store?
No
Yes, they now, if you don't want to dig through your
not
trash
used,
can,
are they?
no, they're not used. They're fresh and clean and wonderful. So you can actually buy these at the craft store, which is crazy to me.
Awesome. I'm always looking for little napkin holders.
So this is a perfect thing to do to keep your kids occupied. As you're getting ready for Thanksgiving. So you would take a little piece of like burlap ribbon, and you're just gonna cut your toilet paper tube.
This is hot glue.
That's hot glue, and you're just gonna cut the little ribbon, and you're just gonna fold it over and put your hot glue. I'm gonna let you do that.
Don't burn yourself.
It's okay. I burn my fingers on hot glue all the time.
So you have some of these projects in a book that
Yes,
you wrote,
so these
and
are
you have
projects, that are all featured in our book. Yes.
called Life.
Life and Season,
and
and it goes through the seasons of the year.
Oh, I like
Each
that. For
season
each-
has 10 devotionals that reflect on the seasons of our faith as well. And then 5 home projects, recipes, crafts, and
You
things.
can do with your
And it's just something you buy
easy.
at the craft store?
Okay, so you would buy it plain like this, and then you would actually put chalkboard paint on it. So this is chalkboard paint. And you can do spray paint, or you can do, they have just regular paint that you can paint on. So, and then once you've done that, you would go ahead and I did words like thankful, family, and then you would tie it on with twine, and you are ready to go.
So cute.
That would be
Now,
the perfect accent for your Thanksgiving table.
You could also do, you know, if you, there's always that awkward moment of who should sit where.
Yes.
You could actually like put, you know, Papa, Nana.
Absolutely,
you know what I mean?
Absolutely. And be really strategic about
everybody
where
go
everybody
find,
goes.
well, yeah, because those dynamics get important, and they can create stress at family gatherings. You know, what if those two sit together? That could be bad.
Absolutely. But these are such easy projects to do and nothing to be intimidated by.
Now,
So-
your book, Life in Season, certainly carries all of this information. What about weekly updates? You have blogs,
we
you
have
have
a blog
information?
called At the Picket Fence, and we share all of these ideas for your home, inspiration for your heart.
You got it. Well, you know, before you burn your fingers, burn through the pages of this book. When we come back from the break, we're going to be sitting down with a woman who has devoted her life to helping other women change the world. Don't go away. You're watching The Difference.
Dear Pastor Hagee, I just wanted to write you to say how honored Rayla Jean and I are to have been partners in your ministry all these years, and to see all the amazing things you've accomplished around the world with the gifts we and others like us have gladly given over the years.
I want to thank you, our Salt Covenant partners, for making it possible for us to preach the gospel to the nations of the world. Thank you, and God bless you.
Become a Salt Covenant partner today. Call the toll-free number or visit jhm.org.
What you see is a child reaching for her mother. There is nothing more beautiful than for a child to know that they're loved. There are thousands of children who are reaching for someone who will not reach back because they're not there. This is the reason we're building the Sanctuary of Hope. I want you to help me help these children have a mother that will take care of them, that will love them, that when they cry in the night, someone will come. When they get hungry, someone will feed them. When it comes time to teach them the way of the Lord, that someone will be there. And together, with the Sanctuary of Hope, we can make this happen. God bless you for all that you do to make the Sanctuary of Hope a reality.
Help give the gift of life. Call the number on the screen or visit jhm.org.
Enjoy watching The Difference but want a more behind-the-scenes look? Learn interesting facts about our guests, comment on our segments, and find out more about the show by following Matt and Kendall on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Keep watching The Difference and follow us on social media to find out more.
Welcome back to The Difference. Joining us now is director and executive producer Sally Colon-Petree, who has devoted her life and work to empowering women around the world. Help us welcome Sally.
Yay. Hello, Sally. How are you?
You get the accent going there.
You did a great job. You didn't call me Colon. We're good.
No, I mean, 13 years of being married to a Mexicano, she's finally figured it out.
That's right, which I just found out, which was surprising to me.
Absolutely. We try to keep it a secret. You know.
But it's in the family.
You're like familia.
Absolutely.
Yes, we are.
You know.
That's right.
Now, we're talking about faith in action today, and you've recently created a documentary that is helping empower women, but you've been about the business of empowering women for several years. When did that begin for you?
Oh my gosh. It started with my mom. She was a social worker for special needs kids, and she was that mom that always helped people. She was innately, it was in her, when someone was hurting, my mom would be the first one to be like, what can I do for you? And so I learned from her. And actually, this documentary comes because of my mom. 3 years ago, she passed away, which was devastating, as you can imagine. But she left us a little inheritance, and I thought, you know, what can I do to honor my mother? And so I decided to do a documentary about women that are doing things to change the world like my mom did. And she always, people don't know this, but my mom wrote a manuscript of she wrote her life story, and she always wanted to get it published.
Wow.
And she never got
found it?
Well, she lost it on her last move, which was devastating for her. So she never got it published. And I thought, I don't want to go and be with the Lord until I can accomplish some things. And because I felt bad for my mom that happened, and she never got to publish her book. If I would have found it, I would have gotten it published. I would have, but we didn't find it after she passed. But so I took some of the money and I decided to go to Africa. That's where I started my journey. With Kat Sadler, who's on a show called E! News in Hollywood. She came with me with her mom, and we started to shoot women out there that are doing things incredible to help, you know, kids and young girls, to educate them. And the first person we interviewed was Kim DeWitt, who founded a home for girls that are being mutilated, you know, FGM, female genital mutilation, which I didn't know anything about until I started shooting this.
Major cultural practice in that side.
Major cultural. And people don't know it is illegal, but it's still being done in the bush areas where cops are not, you know, regulating it. So I started there in Africa, and I was there for 2.5 weeks shooting there. But I have to kind of share that one funny, amazing story. So when I started this whole thing, every morning I would get up on my couch and I would have my devotional and I would just pray, okay, God, you put me here, you got to help me through this, you know? And one of the things I wanted was to interview some political figures so that they can speak on education and, you know, different things that are happening in Africa and here. And I reached out to Condoleezza Rice and a couple other people, and they don't know who I am. They're like, we ain't got no time for you, girl, you know? So I was like, okay, fine. So I just prayed. I go, God, this is the desire of my heart. And you know, he says, he will give you the desire of your heart. So I prayed, I'm like, I'm leaving it in your hands. So we're in Africa, and we're staying in this very nice place called Ruzinga Lodge. And we were doing some humanitarian work. We came back, and there was a helicopter, a Silver Bullet helicopter there. Wow. And I told the manager, I was like, who's here? And he said, well, the former president and his wife are here, and they're staying with us overnight. Wow. And I was like, God, is this you?
Yes.
Are you open? Yeah.
Get out the GoPro.
Get out the GoPro and just follow them. So that night we were having dinner, and the first lady and the former first lady and her husband were coming through our dining room. And I was like, this is my moment. I have to say something. So I said, hello, Mrs. Odinga. You know, I don't know. I didn't know what to call. I was like, dignitary Odinga. I wasn't sure. And I said, do you have a moment? And she kind of looked at me like, who are you, first of all? But she's like, sure. And I was like, you know, we're here. I'm here doing a documentary, and I've been wanting to interview a dignitary like yourself, and would you be willing? And she just looked at me and she's like, why not? And I was like, really? And she said, we're leaving at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. Our plane leaves. Be here at 7 in the morning outside my room with your camera set up, and I'll do an interview with you. And that was like, it was the Lord. It was the Lord, because why in the world would she doesn't know me from anyone? So we got this extraordinary interview with her. She was so classy and beautiful, and she talked about education and everything that I needed for the doc.
Well, and you know, you talk about having the opportunity to achieve what you asked the Lord for. That's the faith part.
That's it.
But then there's the action part of it. That when those moments come, you have to take those steps.
You have to.
There are so many times that I think people have a deep desire, and I believe that many times those desires are compelled of the Spirit to force you into God's plan for your life.
Yes.
You know, you just feel this pull that's taking you in a direction, but then they sit there and they say, okay, God, I feel you pulling me that way. And then they sit still and go, but I'm not going to go until you grab me around the throat and drag me through. And so, you know, you put faith into something to say, God, I want you to help me do this. And then you find yourself in a situation where you say, it's now or never. You got to lead, you know. And so what you're working on now is actually to take these socks.
Yes, okay, so I have to talk about this. So
these look like those little footies that you put on the pajamas when we were kids.
Yeah, so part of, you know, the documentary, part of the documentary is I wanted to not just have a documentary, but I wanted to extend it out. And how can I give with a documentary, but in other ways? So I created this sock line. It's for Pilates and, because I'm in LA, Pilates and yoga, and the bar method, but also you can wear these at home. They're non-slip, you know, on your wood floors.
They got be love.
And so they have inspirational words so that when you wear it, you wake up in the morning, you're like, I feel like being in love today, or being loved, so I'm gonna wear my Be Love socks. So we have these, we have Breathe, which was my mantra last year, because I went through some stuff last year, and I kept reminding myself I have to breathe, and then Grateful.
Now, is this like one size fits most?
So this is for women only right now. Women only. I'm sorry, you can wear it if you want, but
you do yoga too.
Okay.
I'm trying to do yoga in boots.
Okay. You can try to put these over those.
I don't think so. Size 13.
No. These are like size 6 to 10.
Oh, that's perfect.
So that's the normal size for women. Yeah.
That's okay. So what are you doing with the socks now?
Now, once people buy them, you're doing something special, especially with the Dream Center.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I love the Dream Center. I've been involved there for 18 years. I was a board member for the family floor. But for every sock sold, we will give a warm pair of socks to a homeless shelter, and we partner with the Dream Center. So they're going to be our first recipient. Wow. And then we're doing a big screening there, and that's where we're going to launch our partnership. So, and Caroline Barnett, who's the co-founder, is in my documentary.
That's
so
amazing.
She's one of the women that, she's incredible. She started her food truck ministry, and so she's a very good friend of mine, and so she's part of all of this.
You know, one of the things that we hear whenever we read the scriptures is that all things work together. The situation you faced with your mother, the inspiration she was in your life, the past that God gave you in media, the connections He gave you, you see all of these things working together so that your faith in action not only helps you fulfill God's plan and purpose, but it also gives inspiration to others to do the same. Thank you for coming and sharing your story today.
Thank you guys so much.
Guys, go out and buy your wife a pair of these socks, because apparently they're not for us. But
they will be soon.
you know, when we come back, we're going to have the opportunity to continue with this topic of faith in action. You're watching The Difference. Don't go away.
Enjoy watching The Difference but want a more behind-the-scenes look? Learn interesting facts about our guests, comment on our segments, and find out more about the show by following Matt and Kendall on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Keep watching The Difference and follow us on social media to find out more.
What you see is a child reaching for her mother. There's nothing more beautiful than for a child to know that they're loved. There are thousands of children who are reaching for someone who will not reach back because they're not there. This is the reason we're building the Sanctuary of Hope. I want you to help me help these children have a mother that will take care of them, that will love them, that when they cry in the night, someone will come. When they get hungry, someone will feed them. When it comes time to teach them the way of the Lord, that someone will be there. And together, with the Sanctuary of Hope, we can make this happen. God bless you for all that you do. to make the Sanctuary of Hope a reality.
Help give the gift of life. Call the number on the screen or visit jhm.org.
Dear Pastor Hagee, I just wanted to write you to say how honored Rayla Jean and I are to have been partners in your ministry all these years, and to see all the amazing things you've accomplished around the world with the gifts we and others like us have gladly given over the years.
I want to thank you, our Salt Covenant partners, for making it possible for us to preach the gospel to the nations of the world. Thank you, and God bless you.
Become a Salt Covenant partner today. Call the toll-free number or visit jhm.org.
Joining us now is Harmony Dust Grillo, founder of Treasures, a faith-based, survivor-led outreach and support group for women who were formerly involved in the sex industry. She's launched outreaches in over 100 cities on 6 continents and provided training to the FBI, the Department of Justice, and she's working diligently to change the world one life at a time. Harmony, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate
Now,
it.
you tell quite a compelling story, a story of your life in your book, Scars and Stilettos. Now, people who hear about scars, they think that, okay, that's wounding, that's hurt, that's past pain. Stilettos, what's that got to do with it? And so you've got a very interesting story that leads to how faith and actions work in your life. What's that story?
Yeah, I mean, to really summarize it, I came from a really violent home, violent neighborhood, a history of sexual abuse and rape, was very vulnerable. And one of my abusers was my mother's boyfriend, and I ran away from home to get away, and so she said, come home, I'll make sure he's gone. So I came home, and he was gone, only she left to be with him. So she left me at 13 with my 8-year-old brother for 3 months with $20 and a book of food stamps. And so after the money was gone and the food stamps, I started stealing from the liquor store to feed us and was just in a really vulnerable situation. And it was at that point that I became involved with an older boy in my neighborhood who I saw as a knight in shining armor. He would buy us food, he made me feel protected, but really his intention was to exploit me. And so the relationship became very toxic and abusive and eventually led me into the commercial sex industry at 19, where I worked as a stripper. And essentially he became my pimp. Every night I came home and gave him all my money and was just in a really hopeless downward spiral.
And you had your brother still at the same time.
Well, that's a whole long thing, but yeah, that's a whole long thing. So I didn't have my brother at 19.
With that kind of pressure, though, in the circumstance, you know, oftentimes I think people hear about sex trafficking and they hear about this industry, and it's very easy and quite human for them to just kind of come up to the conclusion, well, you know, a series of choices, you know, led to that. And in some cases, maybe that's the case, but in many cases, it's survival. It's just, how do I get from one day to the next, and then you don't know what else to do.
In many cases, when it is a choice, and in the case of trafficking, it's not. It's force, fraud, and coercion. But even when a woman is making that choice, usually, there's a vulnerability, there's poverty, there's histories of sexual abuse, there's
violation, abuse, all these things.
All that stuff. And then in the context of a culture where there's demand for her to sell her body, where, you know, we normalize male promiscuity, where we sexualize women, and you place a vulnerable person in the context of that culture, and it's more easy for her to be susceptible to entering the commercial sex industry. And the truth is 89% of the women in the sex industry want to leave, but they don't see any other options. So what is choice without option?
Now, you did leave. Yes. What brought you to that moment of saying, this part of my life is done?
Yeah, so the catalyst for me was a friendship, and it was this girl who just loved me unconditionally. She was Christian. I didn't know a lot about Christians. I was pretty sure they didn't like strippers, so I thought, oh my gosh. I was like, I ruined the one friendship that I have that's healthy, but she just challenged any preconceived notion about what it means to be a Christian, and she just loved me. Her friendship was not conditional on me going to church. She took me to coffee. She took me to yogurt. Church was the last place I wanted to be. I thought, if there is a God, he wouldn't want anything to do with someone like me, and I don't know that I want anything to do with him. So anyways, her friendship was a game changer, and eventually I saw that she had something in her life that was missing, and I went to church, and I knew I was home. But I didn't change overnight. Healing was a process, and she never tried to be the Holy Spirit. She gave space for the Holy Spirit to do a work in my heart that led to change in my life. So she didn't say, now that you're in church, you need to stop cussing, get off the pole, break up with the boyfriend, put on some clothes. She just gave me space.
She let God work his plan in your life. And you know, one of the things that I believe is fruit and evidence of that is you are now going back into the world that you walked out of with faith and using faith to bring others out with you. You know, I think so many times people immediately run from a past. But the Bible's very clear that whenever you receive Christ, you have victory over that past.
Yeah.
So what is it that you're doing now that's taking faith, putting it to action, and bringing people into their freedom?
Yeah, so we do outreach to women in strip clubs, to the porn industry through HIV testing sites, in juvenile detention centers and group homes, and in online forums where women and girls are sold and solicited for sex. So we reach women in all areas of the commercial sex industry. Probably about a third have been trafficked. And we provide care to them, support group, mentoring, and really just community and a sense of belonging. We do Thanksgiving, Christmas, you know, hiking, beach days. And then our third focus is training other people around the globe to replicate this grassroots church-based model of outreach in their cities.
Wow.
And that's
you're
how
going
we,
over the
over
100
over 100 on 6 continents.
And you're training with FBI. I saw that.
Yeah, so that's been really awesome.
And you know, when you say you're training law enforcement and these kinds of individuals, a lot of people would say, well, what do they need training for? But there's a victim side to this industry, and that's where you're really doing a lot of the focus and the work.
Yeah, and thankfully there has been a shift to a more victim-centered approach and more understanding of, you know, what leads a person down that path and what it takes to help them get free. So that's part of the training that we do.
Now, one of the things that I think is important in solving problems like this is that, you know, people like you have experiences in life that put you in a position to deal with one element of it. But we all have a role to play. I think that there's an awareness that needs to be made for each and every individual to understand how the culture influences this kind of behavior. Even in the extreme circumstance of trafficking, there's a cultural push that feeds that funnel. What are some of the things you see churches and pastors and leaders that they need to do that they might not be doing now?
One of the biggest things is, unfortunately, it's a supply and demand issue. So if there were no demand for the commercial sex industry, there would be no supply, and women wouldn't be vulnerable to being sexually exploited. And so, unfortunately, we see the same rates of watching porn and going to strip clubs and acting out in sexual addiction in the church as outside of the church. So it's really important that churches begin to address the sexual brokenness that's taking place in the church so that we can overcome it and so that we can move towards being a part of the solution, because that's what we were put here on the earth to do. So that's a huge part of it.
Yeah, an individual with a pure heart and a desire to be holy reached out and was a major influence in your life.
Yeah.
And I think that message of purity and holiness is something that the church should give consideration to when it comes to putting their faith into action so that more people can be reached. And then by doing so, we create an opportunity for good to overcome evil as it ultimately will do.
And loving people where they're at.
Absolutely.
You know?
It's certainly been that way in your life, and I thank you for putting your faith into action. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
I want you to be inspired by the lives that touched our program today. Whether you're doing something to make your home a better and brighter place, or making others around the world aware of the great works of women, or looking for someone that you can love right where they are, no matter what they've been through. Each and every time you put your faith to action, the Bible says that faith is the victory that overcomes the world. Faith is what makes you the difference. You can be salt and you can be light, even in a dark world. Don't ever forget, keep shining. Thank you for watching The Difference.